Tuesday.
Psych! Cause it's Taco Tuesday!
What's today?
It's Thursday.
Really? Feels like Tuesday.
Tuesday has no feel. Monday has a feel. Friday has a feel. Sunday has a feel.
I feel Tuesday and Wednesday.
All right, shut up, the both of you.
Hello and welcome to Tuesday Newsday number 26, where our learning goal is to determine two or more central ideas of a text and analyze their development over the course of that text, including how they interact and build on one another. At the end of today's lesson, you will be asked to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 4. If you're at a 4, this means that you can identify the central idea or ideas, point to the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, and you're able to identify how those ideas build on one another. If you're at a 3, that means that you can identify the central idea or ideas, as well as the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, but you're missing out on how those ideas build on one another. A 3 is actually where we want everybody to be. So if you're able to do this, you have met the standard. It's the 4 that goes above and beyond. 2 means that you can identify the central ideas, but you're not pointing to the evidence. And of course, as with other videos, all the Tuesday Newsday videos at least, I will explain this. Not pointing to the evidence is a little bit like not showing your work in math. We want to see the process of your understanding, because school never has been and never will be about just getting to the right answer. The right answer is a byproduct of the process. It's a thinking move that we want you to make. It's some of those critical thinking skills that force you to do a little bit more in English than they do in math, than they do in science, than they do in social studies. So that's what school's for. So having the right answer doesn't get you the full school experience. 1 means that you are unsure of how to find the central idea. To receive a unit and a half for today's lesson, you must highlight or underline the main idea, circle the evidence that the author uses to prove his or her point, and put a box around any other central ideas in the text. We will be working specifically with a few different skills. The first is to identify the topic. Remember that the topic is not the main idea. The main idea comes out in the details. The topic typically just gives us a little bit of an insight into what the story is about, but almost always authors, add more layers to every story. So we want to make sure that we identify the main idea, which comes through in more detail later on. Summarizing the story. There's a challenge here. It's an extra unit if you can accomplish this task. I want a exactly 12-word summary of the story, and exactly a 32-word summary of the story. 1 forces you to really synthesize the information, really get down to the point. The other, the 32, allows you to expand a little bit, talk a little bit about the main idea, the details, those sorts of things. But true understanding of a main idea will come through in these different lengths of summaries. The first and last sentence of the story, of course, the first serves to introduce the main idea, the last serves to recap it, typically. And then I have repeated ideas next, but with the last 2 here, I flip-flop. The main idea of the article is, and you answer that question. After that, how do these specific quotes support the main idea that you suggested? Because all I did was pull quotes from the story. You have to tell me how that quote supports the main idea and why that quote was included in the story. Following that, you have words here. These are words. I have to update these words, but the words will be here in the story. So here we go. Letting teens sleep in would save the country roughly $9 billion a year. Written for the Washington Post on the 8th of September of 2017, so a bit of an older article. The United States would realize roughly $9 billion a year in economic gains by instituting a simple nationwide policy change, starting public school classes no earlier than 8:30 a.m. That's according to an exhaustive new study by the Rand Corporation, the first of its kind to model the nationwide costs and benefits of later school start times. The economic benefits would come primarily from 2 sources: greater academic performance and hence lifetime earnings, among more well-rested students and reduced rates of car crashes among sleepy adolescent drivers. Those benefits would greatly outweigh the annual cost of implementing the policy change, which include the price of reorganizing school bus schedules, an estimated $150 per student per year, and flat one-time cost of $110,000 per school to install additional infrastructure, like lighting, to support later dismissals, sports teams practices, and other student activities. The significant economic benefits from simply delaying school start times to 8:30 a.m. would be felt in a matter of years, making this a win-win, both in terms of benefiting the public health of adolescents and doing so in a cost-effective manner, said study co-author Wendy Troxel in a news release. Co-author Marco Hafner added that the rapid return on investment from implementing the change is unprecedented in economic terms. In recent years, researchers have identified early school start times as a significant public health problem. Adolescents' brains are wired to go to sleep late and wake up late, making it difficult for them to get a good night's rest before a 7:30 a.m. first period class. Sleep deprivation in teens has been linked to everything from poor health to poor academic performance to criminal activity. The evidence strongly suggests that a too early start to the school day is a critical contributor to chronic sleep deprivation among American adolescents. The American Academy of Pediatrics wrote in 2014, the AAP urges middle and high schools to aim for start times that allow students to receive 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep a night. In most cases, this will mean a school start time of 8:30 a.m. or later. The overwhelming majority of students do not start this late, however. Only 18% of the nation's school districts start classes at 8:30 a.m. or later, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Nationwide, the average starting time for a high school and middle school classes is 8:03 a.m. In some states, it's considerably earlier. Louisiana starts class at around 7:40 a.m. on average. Many schools in the state start even earlier than that. School districts have traditionally balked at rearranging their schedules, however. A chief obstacle is transportation. School districts usually send high school students to class earlier than elementary school kids, allowing for a staggered bus schedule, a smaller bus fleet, and fewer drivers. Ditching that system to get everyone to school at the same time would require more buses and drivers, costing a school district roughly $150 per student, according to a 2011 Brookings Institute analysis. Beyond that, the RAND researchers note that schools would need to invest in lighting and other infrastructure to support after-school activities happening at later hours. But these costs are dwarfed by the economic benefits of starting school later. States implementing later school times would see a positive return on their investment in just 2 years, according to the RAND report. The net nationwide benefit from increased academic performance and lower car crash rates would reach $9.3 billion a year, equivalent to the annual revenue of Major League Baseball. The authors do stress that they're likely understating the true economic benefits of earlier start times. They don't attempt to model potential spillover benefits in other areas, like student mental health, obesity, or criminal behavior. The reported benefits in this study are likely an underestimation of the full benefits related to delaying school start time to at least 8:30 a.m., the authors note. Alright, so I've kind of taken care of the ones that are you just look up and you respond to. Letting teens sleep in would save the country roughly $9 billion a year. And then the first and last sentence here, you can summarize the story now. Answer what you think the main idea of the story is now. The importance of the first quote now. The importance of the second quote now. Right, the actual main idea of the story is the economic benefits from the switch, the school time switch, will result in, I don't want to say come from, I'll say result in more well-rested students and reduced rates of car crashes among sleepy adolescent drivers. This is a synthesis of a quote taken directly from the story, one that wasn't in one of the two that we responded to here, but that kind of got right to it. So the main idea was pretty out there for you in this particular Tuesday Newsday article. In your first quote, talks specifically about benefiting the public health of adolescents and doing so in a cost-effective manner. So what I thought was interesting, why this is important, how it supports the main idea, is that they can be seen quickly, and he addresses public health, which is Sleepy Drivers is the direct link to those words, the safety of the public health. And the second quote, the reported benefits in this study are likely an underestimation of the full benefits related to delaying school start time to at least 8:30 a.m. Why is this quote included in the story? Well, this quote is included in the story because it would suggest that the benefits go beyond just those two things that are listed. There's probably more to it. We just don't know what those things are yet. But we know that those are so beneficial that they probably have a much farther reaching effect, or the idea of starting school later has a much far reaching effect. So based on the information given here, what did you learn about the main idea of the article, which is here? What was something new that you hadn't considered? How was your answer different? All right, and our scale is here. Where would you rate yourself according to this scale and the things that you were able to do? And consider the things that you learned as well. You know, where were you maybe before we kind of talk through what those answers were? Do you feel like you have a better grasp of that now? You can account for that when you respond with your proper number.